Hey,
Awesome. Nice to meet you, Naresh.
nice to meet you too. Thank you so much for your time.
Of course, yeah. No, I'm sorry it took so long. Puss in Boots got really busy
Yeah.
towards the end there, so we
Yeah,
were grinding away, but I'm on the new show and it's slowed down quite a bit.
it's been quite a long time. Actually, I had forgotten actually, but then I got your reply, so I was like really grateful to you. Like you have replied.
I know you talked to Prashant.
Yes, Prashant was the first guy, and then gradually, like Benjamin also took a long time, almost 3 months to come to this because he was quite busy with the work. And finally I got to talk to him, and he's really an amazing person. And thank you as well, like thank you so much for coming in and sharing your time as well. And I'm really
Yeah.
grateful to all you all guys,
No,
seriously.
of course. Yeah, I'm glad I was able to help out. I hope they're amazing, and I learned from both of them. They're very, very good animators. So I hope mine's as entertaining as them. I know I have a lot to learn from them, so their animation is going to look way cooler than the shot I'm about to show you today. But yeah, I'm glad I was able to like help out and jump on the call with you. It's going to be fun.
So like starting with how did you start your animation career? Like did you know this when you were young, or it happened luck by chance, something like that?
It's definitely by chance. I didn't want to be an animator as a kid. I actually can't draw. So I never, when I was young, I didn't think like when I was a kid, the movies that were coming out, like when I was like 6 and 7, like they were like Lion King and Beauty and the Beast. And so I didn't, I thought you had to draw to animate. And I was like, I can't draw, so I'll never
Yeah.
do that. And it wasn't until I was like 28 and my girlfriend at the time, now wife, she wanted to go to this conference in Los Angeles called CTM, which is an animation conference if you don't know. And so we went and we won a lottery to visit Disney,
Oh,
and they showed a breakdown of a Baymax shot because Big Hero 6 was coming out.
yeah.
And there was something about that breakdown that made me like say like I want to do that. Like I had already had a career. I was a motion designer and videographer, and
Oh.
but I happened to see that and I was like I kind of want to go back to school, and she supported me. She was like, yeah, let's do it. And so I went back to school and retrained myself. It took about 3 years, and that's how I got into animation. It wasn't your traditional like since I was a little kid.
I have been talking to many people, and I have seen like 95% of the people have come luck by chance into animation, like being an animator. Like even I am luck by chance into the animation. I did not know anything about animation, but then suddenly I met one friend, and I just went to the institute and just saw the infrastructure and everything, whatever the curriculum. I did not know anything actually about animation, but gradually then I learned, and then I went deeply into it. And I had been an animator since last around, it's been 10 years now, but I had
Nice.
been off for 2 years from the industry. But yes, from in India, I have been for 8 years or so now.
That's awesome.
So it's
Yeah,
been
no, it's
great to talk to you guys, how you guys do the animation and the feelings and the performance. And I really love that.
no, thank you. Yeah, it's I think a lot of people come from different uh backgrounds, and not every parent thinks of
Yes,
art as like a secure career. Like my dad, like from Puerto Rico, moved to the States in his 20s, and so he wanted us to be safe and secure. So when I said, oh, like kind of when I was growing up, art wasn't safe, so he
yes,
didn't want us to do it. So it was good that it happened later in my 20s because I was already making my own money. I was like, I can do this now. It's my choice. But I think a lot of people go through that thing where like maybe like when you're a kid you think about more, or not a kid, but your parents kind of try to guide
exactly.
you in a way of safety
Yes, yes,
versus like
absolutely.
artistic stuff.
Here as well, they're like parents are more into safety, not into the art thing. Like,
Yeah.
so that's great to talk to you. And maybe like we know that you got very little amount of time, and so I just want to move ahead directly. Like if you could share something of your animation short so that we can focus more on the animation front. So if you would like to share the animation, whatever you did, and you talk about that animation shot, then it would be great.
Yeah, I sent you a link here. Let me see. I don't use Zoom often, so let me see how to share.
Yes,
Here to share screen.
yes, yes, I've given the access.
Okay, and then go. Okay, do you see
Yes,
do you
yes,
see the sync sketch?
yes, yes.
All right, awesome. So I sent you a link too if it makes it easier to screen record it or whatever. But yeah, so this I'm gonna show you a shot from Boss Baby. We're still my bad guy stuff. I don't have any of my real stuff from Bad Guys, and then Puss in Boots it still hasn't come out yet, so I can't share that unfortunately. But this is one of my this was probably one of my favorite shots on Boss Baby, because at the time I was a cycles animator, so I did a lot of crowds. And at the end they brought me into animation to help out, and this was like a shot that gave me a bunch of characters to animate. So it was a lot of work, even though it's a pretty short shot.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
I'll start by showing you the shot first, and then we can go over it.
Yes, yes, you can have a look.
So yeah, this shot is Tina and Tabitha right now. Have you seen Boss Baby
Yes,
too?
yes.
Okay, so yeah, it's when they're backstage and Dr. Armstrong has taken over all the parents, and so they're trying to figure out how to do it. And Tabitha is just realizing that their parents are zombies, and Tina, of course, she's the smart baby agent that is figuring everything out. So basically, I'm gonna kind of go through each process of how I do it. Usually, I would really try to, like, when I start on a shot, I try to really think about the subtext of each character, like what's going through their mindset. Like maybe, like even though the dialogue says something, maybe they try and act differently. Like I don't like to be cliche, so I really try to like really think about what they're thinking more than what they're saying. In
Yes.
this case, on Boss Baby, Tom, our director, he uh took a lot of time on previs and like really setting it up, so he knew exactly what he wanted. So it actually saved me a lot of like planning time. I didn't have to really overthink, because he was like, this is what they're thinking, this is how I want it. And so I was like, okay, perfect, I know the direction I need to go already. So instead of like doing sketches and thumbnails on this one, I kind of went straight into shooting reference. So right here, like you'll see coming up, reference, I'll take the dialogue and I'll play it. And you see I'm in 2 different clothes. I'll shoot tons of different times over multiple days to like
Yes.
figure it out. I won't just do one and then go in. Like because I can't draw, I'm not the best at doing like
Yes.
actual drawovers and poses on paper. So I need to really shoot reference and figure it out. For me, it helps me a lot. And then if you notice in that shot, there was a bunch of side characters walking around in the foreground before it gets to the main characters.
Yes, yes.
So I'll take the time and shoot those as well. So these are the other, like I knew they were going to be in suits and stuff. So I took some time and just acted out how I thought these kids would act if they saw their parents like a zombie, like they'd be scared and like maybe nervous and like gripping the suit more. So I did that. And then once I'm happy with my reference, before I show to my supervisor, I like to do, I call it staging it out. And this is super rough pass. I put the characters where I think they should be based on the layout information I have. And I'll block in some rough story poses, like maybe 4 or 5. This is just to like, I want to take this and my reference and show it to my anim supervisor so they can buy off on the idea before I start animating.
Like in the crowd, this thing where many of the characters are there, you shoot the reference for each of the characters.
Yeah, I'll shoot the reference for every single person in there. The only ones I didn't shoot reference for is the babies,
Yes.
because there was a lot of babies in the ground, and I was just like, oh, I think I can have fun with the babies, because all the kids that are like 10 years old, you can see when something's going wrong, right? Like
Yeah.
you understand at 10 years old, like, oh, that's not good. But a 1-year-old baby doesn't understand that their parents are zombies, they're like, I thought it'd be funny that they're more fixated on like what's happening around them. Like there's cake and there's toys, so they're playing around, and which you'll see when I get to there. But for this part, so like, see, this is super rough. There's only a couple poses. No lip sync at all. I didn't even put the side characters in. I was just like, let's just put the main characters in. We have the camera and see how it's going. And I'll show this plus the reference, and I'll send it to my anim supervisor. And if when they give me the go ahead, they might give me a couple little notes here and there. I'll actually start blocking everything in. And that's the next pass. I get to blocking. And in this part, you'll see I have these 3 cubes here. I knew I was gonna have those extra characters, but I wanted to like try and figure out where they should be in camera before I start animating them, because I knew there was gonna be like 8 to 10 extra characters I had to animate. And if you don't take your time and make sure that the director wants it in the correct position, like there's a point of no return, right? Where you like, you've animated too far and like, oh, I can't fix it now. So you want to take your time with this part and make sure everything's where it needs to be.
So this
So
is the positions you have set, like there will be the characters placed.
yeah, I just put the color cubes that match the outfits, and I was like, these are resembling the crowds. Let me know if you want them over. Start like, just let me. I'll let the director decide where they want them. And that's pretty much how I do it. Super fast. But you see, I'm already blocking in
Yes.
the lip sync on them. We'll show that one again. Like, and it's still really stiff and ugly, but we're starting to break things down. I right there, I think I hit spline, but I like to block. I stay in step until 2s, usually 2s or 3s, and then I'll hit spline, and then I just kind of start cleaning away. I animate a lot different than most. Some people like really like try to get every single thing looking beautiful on 2s. I animate kind of like a gesture drawing. Like I'm super rough at the beginning, and then once I get into 2s, I kind of like hide everything except the hips, and then I clean up the hips, and then I'll clean up the shoulders, and then do the same thing with the arms, the legs, the head. Which a lot of people, some people do that, but I know a lot of people, like if they animate in step, they try to make it look almost as close as they can to in step before they hit spline.
Yes,
And
but many of them, like I have heard, like many of them mostly prefer the clamp mode or maybe not the step mode of the keys. Like I have heard.
clamp.
Yes.
Yeah.
Most,
I'll use clamp when I get to spline, but at the beginning, there's something about the interpolation between the keys. If it's moving, it distracts me. So I need to keep it in steps for a while. But yeah, but clamped is really good too. I know Dan Wagner, he's a Hoka, like a head of animation at DreamWorks, and he animates in spline. Like he doesn't do steps, and he's amazing. So it's every workflow is fine. This is just how I do it.
yes. Everybody has a different approach. Like
Yeah.
Chant and Ben, they both of them told me like that. They used to do the slime, that thing, not the step mode.
Yeah, I need to see how Ben. I haven't checked out Ben's workflow. I want to talk to him about
He
it, but I
just
know
shared
he's
like what are the thoughts, how do you guys think about, like, and I've really learned this thing from you guys, like it's very much important to know the intent, like behind the scene, what is happening in the head, what is happening, what the character is thinking, and then doing and delivering the performance, not about animation but about delivering the performance.
Yeah. No, it's legit. That's why I mentioned earlier, like on most shots I get, I try to really think about the subtext of each thing. JP Sands, who's an amazing Hoka at DreamWorks, he did a cool talk for us about like always animating what they're feeling versus what they're saying.
Yes.
Because a lot of students, when they're learning, and this is I did this, every student does this, like
Yes.
they hear the words and they try to animate an action that resembles the word.
Absolutely.
But like what helps like push you forward is when you really get into the thought, because that's what brings it closer to like something we can relate to, right? Like
Yes.
So that we're definitely trying to do that all the time. Sometimes on something that's really cartoony, we want those loud wacky movements, like Boss Baby, but every shot.
That is why we love watching movies. No, that is why, because of the performance. not about how good the animation is, but how good the performance is.
Yeah, no, it's really fun. I'm
Yeah,
glad to be a part of it.
you are really grateful. You are really
Yes,
lucky working
I'm very
on
lucky.
those movies, and it's really lucky. And I am really grateful to talk to you guys and share your knowledge and learn new things from you guys as well, and share it
Oh,
to
thank
other
you.
people as well through this.
Yeah, no, I hope it helps out. I hope we get a bunch of new animation students that can learn
Yeah,
from this
I
and
want
grow.
like people to know what exactly is animation. Like that's what you said. Like students generally do hearing the voice over like what to animate, how to animate. They focus on how to animate, how do I make it feel good, how do I make it look good, but they don't look into like what should I animate, what is more connecting to the audience, and what is the thing I should do so that it delivers or enhances the performance.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the way to think about it. That plus also like I know I've had a couple of shots where I thought for the shot this worked great, but then I'll sometimes have to take it back like, well, does this help the scene, the overall scene?
Yes, yes.
Like maybe like I wish I could talk to you about Puss in Boots because I have some cool stuff in there where I had to learn from that. Maybe once that reel comes out, we can do another one of these. But
Yeah, maybe after
um,
it gets released, we can talk about it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Here, let me show you. So next, after blocking, I'll show that to my supervisor, and if they give me the okay or give me any notes, I'll adjust those. But then I show it to the directors for the first time. Um, and just to make sure that everything's on the right track, you want to make sure that they see it because even though you think your animation's in the right direction or anything, it's their
Yes,
vision. So
yes,
you want to make sure you're heading in the correct way. So, but once they give me the buy off, I'm like, cool, let's break it down more. See how now I'm going to start thinking about timing and spacing and like really pushing things. Um, so that's, I call it blocking plus. And so if you look here, I have a lot of the other characters in there. And so I had those, if you remember my reference, these three
yes,
are the ones that I was acting out. And then of course I said the babies
yes,
in there. And those kids look scared because they see their parents acting weird, but these babies, they don't know what's going on. They just hear music and the other babies are around and you can't see it. Um, but this little one in the scene, there's a big cake. And I
yes,
thought it'd be really funny if he's eating
yes,
cake. So I have him just eating cake. Like none of the babies are really thinking about the parents.
yes.
Um, and if you look at the main characters, even though like the face posing is still off and like the eye line's incorrect, I'm starting to add lip sync in. The timing's a lot snappier, getting closer to what it's going to be.
Is the sound coming for this video, like for this shot?
It is on mine. I'm sorry, is it not coming through?
Like I'm not able to hear the sound. I thought maybe you are just rubbing through or scrubbing. Are you scrubbing or you just playing the video?
Sorry. Sorry. Excuse me. I'm scrubbing and playing, so it's
Yes, so
let's see.
must be,
How do you share audio on this?
yes, directly it gets shared, I
Oh,
guess.
share computer sound. Can you hear this?
We need to shut it down
Yes,
before it goes
yes.
close.
Okay, awesome. I'm sorry about that. But so okay. Um, but if you look at to go back to the blocking, like if you look at the three new other children that are like Tabitha's age, they're super rough like they were in the last pass, right? Like just trying to get a feeling for how they would act.
Mom,
There's no
Dad,
lip sync on any of them. They're
Whoa.
super soft and like mushy, like
Mhm.
they haven't been cleaned up or anything, but just starting to break them down because there's a total of 8 characters now, which is it's a lot to do, even though it's not that long. It's a good amount of animation. So
So all the
do it rough
characters
and dirty.
are being animated by you. Like all these characters, have you done this whole shot?
Yeah, all these I did all these characters in the shot. There's in the final shot, you'll see like a couple, like maybe one back here and one here, and that was done by crowds, I think by
Yeah, yeah.
John Hahn and Isaac Avital. Uh, which you'll see in the final shot. But these everything you see in this play blast version, these are the ones I did.
Mom, Dad, Grandpa.
Yeah,
Whoa,
this is
you
blocking
kidding
plus.
me? We need to shut it down before it goes global.
Basically here the ID is correct now. Now we're just making all the actions are starting to feel nicer and clean them up. And then once this is approved, like once the director said this is great, usually at this point the director is okay with auto finaling the shot, which just means like this is great, go ahead and clean it up, and so we can send it on to editorial. Now I'm just working with my anim supervisor and the Hoka at this point, and polishing up, just making it look as pretty as possible, all the bells and whistles, adding that, making sure all the timing and spacing are good, cleaning up your arcs, going through all the principles, you know how that is. And yeah, and this is the final before lighting.
Dad, Grandpa. Whoa, you kidding me? We need to shut it down before it goes global.
I'll show it one more time.
Mom, Dad, Grandpa. Whoa, you kidding me? We need to shut it down before it goes global.
Yeah, and then of course, once we call it a handoff, once it's done, you're done, you hand it off, and it goes through like CFX lighting, and they make it like really gorgeous, right, for the final film. Like it's so insane to see. Like I love every now and then sneaking into lighting dailies because you're just like, oh, they're on my sequence, let me see what they made my shot look like, and it looks like this.
Mom, Dad, Grandpa. Whoa, you kidding me? We need to shut it down before it goes global.
Yeah, and that is a breakdown on how I animate a shot. I most of the time that's how I animate, like stepped until twos, stuff like that. Every now and then, if it's like a simple action, I might not go into steps. I'll treat it like layered, like a bouncing ball, depending on the shot. But that's basically like when I think about animating, that's how I do it most of the time.
So if it is a like more of a, suppose it is a single character, maybe an action shot, if you talk about. Maybe.
Yeah, like if like, especially back when I was in cycles, sometimes if they need like on Boss Baby, when I was in cycles, we got on a little earlier on certain characters, and I got to animate the ninjas running in Boss Baby. And so with those, like I knew I wanted a very specific speed, so I just started with their hips and got like the bounce right and the speed right, and then I started layering in the feet, the hands, the head, and all that stuff. Like, so depending on that, or if like a character is getting like just flying back real quick, I just want like, how does that energy feel on the speed? And I'll just do that with a hip. I'll just keep the character in T-pose and just fly them back, and then I'll start animating all that extra stuff in later.
Oh. So you also do that first hip and then the upper body, and like one by one.
Yeah, I like literally go up the chain like a pendulum. Like I'll start with the hips, then I'll go to the mid torso area, then the shoulders. Then I usually do neck and head. And while I'm doing this, I hide everything else I'm not touching. So when I'm on the torso, I'll hide the head, arms, and legs just so I don't get distracted. And then I'll turn them on once I'm ready to do clean those up. And then yeah, that's how I usually clean up.
It's been really great. Like I feel like if I would have been animating in these movies also, like it feels really great. If I could get a chance, or maybe I could do something.
Yeah, no, you should send your reel whenever we're hiring. Like
it's been long. Like in India, it takes a while for creating this. Like we are so busy into the job and this thing, so there's very less time to focus on the show reel. Or maybe if we are very much focused on if you want to travel abroad and work there, then we can focus on the show reel front, like according to the requirement of that whatever the studio is.
okay.
As far as here is concerned, we do just the animation, whatever the projects we get. But yes, obviously, if I need to approach DreamWorks, then I need to create a show reel, which should be the quality required by them. That is what we need.
Yeah, I know that was hard because I don't know how fast it is compared to yours, but I originally, when I out of school, I went into games because I knew I wanted to move to Los Angeles. I knew I wanted to work at DreamWorks, but I had to be in Los Angeles, and I was lucky enough to get hired at Infinity Ward to work on Modern Warfare. And they use a lot of mocap, and it's a lot like it's the quality's still good, but you have a lot of quantity. You can't take as much time to polish things. So what I had to do in that case is on the weekends, I would do these personal tests, and I would show them to like my mentor, who was Sean Sexton, an animation mentor. He's a Hoka at DreamWorks as well. And he would give me feedback, and like I would just keep doing these tests until when he felt I was ready for like a cycles position at DreamWorks. That's when he told me that, hey, you should apply. And so it was a similar boat where like my work at games, even though like I could get another job in games if I wanted to, but I wanted to work in feature, it wasn't going to get me the job. So I had to put that extra effort in, and those were some tiring nights because in games the crunch is crazy, at least compared to feature, in my opinion. Like I did full like 12 hours a day for a full year, and usually a work is 8 hours a day here, so it was like a lot different. And so like I'd come home tired, but then I'd have to spend a few hours working on my tests to get there because I knew I wanted to be at DreamWorks one day. So it was tough, but it was worth it. But I understand it's a little hard trying to use the work you have from your actual job if it's not what DreamWorks wants to see.
So in the mocap, like how does it work in mocap? You need to clean up a lot of things, or
Yeah, you'll get we just call it data. You'll get the mocap data in, and it's like we shoot all the actors a lot. All right, actually, how we start is we'll go into the studio where they shoot the mocap. It's like basically like shooting the scene in a film, but they're wearing the mocap suit.
yeah, yes,
And I'll be there, or the lead animator will be there, and directing them on how they want to do. You're basically telling them how you want them to animate, right? Like you're telling like, oh, like punch here and like really cock your fist back and then swing and stuff like that. And then the actors like if I worked on Modern Warfare, it was a Call of Duty game, which is very, very violent. And so like I got a couple of ones where like it was like a stabbing motion, and the actors we have on set, they're not going to really hurt each other. We don't want them to hurt each other. So when they do like a punch or like a stab, it like gets really soft because they don't want to hurt the other actor.
yeah.
And so when I get that data, you put it in game right away, just so the designers and the other people can start working on their stuff. But that's when you go in and your animation skills come in, like, and you really like clean up those arcs, you clean up the spacing. I'll even push the pose to try to make them look more dynamic when I have the time. And just like I really want to, like, if someone's punching someone, I want to, like, the player, when they push the punch button, I want them to feel the punch.
Yeah.
And same thing, like I said, this is a little bit morbid and dark, but like if a stab, like I want it to feel like like they're really getting stabbed. And it's, you really like, that's when you kind of come in and clean up. But you get all this data, it comes in baked like every frame, and you just got to kind of clean it up. And it does, you still need to, I truly believe like animators like are needed in mocap. A lot of people think like, oh, you can just shoot mocap. You can tell when something's just mocap. It feels like this uncanny valley in video games. But like when you look at a game like The Last of Us by Naughty Dog, they shoot mocap, but their animators are amazing. They make that feel as real. You don't feel like you're playing in this uncanny valley. Like you feel every hit, you feel every impact that you're getting in that game. And that's because the animators take their time and really clean up that mocap. And a lot of the times, I know whenever I could, I would try and delete and even just animate it by hand.
Yeah.
I would just keep the poses, like, oh, I like that pose. And like, now I'm just going to like really crank that. Sometimes they'll be like, nope, put it back because we need to look more real. But
yes,
you try to have fun where you can. So, but yeah, mocap is that. It's a lot of like cleanup. It's almost like you're only polishing, I guess.
yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it might be quite frustrating. So you might be just deleting off the keys, and I'll do it on my own. Maybe.
Yeah, that happens. And sometimes the characters can't do the thing. Like I know a friend of mine had a shot where they were climbing down and they had to jump like 10 feet down. And in the studio, we don't have like they don't have a thing where they can jump 10 feet down. Also, you don't want the actor necessarily to do that. They can hurt their ankle or something. So they'll just jump off this little thing. And then the animator has to animate them, like separate that and actually animate the fall and stuff like that. So there's times where you have to animate. Like you still need to know how to animate in mocap. That's still important.
But then, who are the actors who do this mocap thing? You guys have to do the acting part as well.
We do sometimes. I didn't do anything for Modern Warfare, but before I got hired there, I was an intern and they put me in the suit to do some little test stuff. So it was really fun to do. But a lot of times, yeah, the animators will dress up. But we do have like for action, they'll hire stunt actors that like are comfortable jumping and doing like stuff like that. There's even times like on Modern Warfare, like there's like we want to be as close as we can to like the military side of things, and so like they'll hire like I think they've hired like ex-Navy SEALs sometimes to come in and like explain exactly how they do it, so we can really see how like oh, these are the body mechanics and the physics they're going through, and like it helps us a lot as animators to see that. It's also just great reference. And then sometimes they'll get like a big name actor. I know I didn't work on this one, but Infinite Warfare, they got the what was his? I forget the actor that plays Jon Snow in Game of Thrones.
No.
I forget his name, but he was that they shot him. So they'll bring big actors in sometimes, depending on the game. So yeah, it's they get a bunch of people. Sometimes it's the animator, sometimes it's a A-list actor that you have to fly in. So yeah, it's anyone can do it.
So as an animator, like what do you think, if I talk about the qualities an animator should have, so what would you summarize as, like, what do you think that an animator should have these kind of qualities in them?
I think, like, are you talking about to get to DreamWorks or?
No, in general, I'm talking about like if somebody wants to become a good animator or a successful animator doing feature films or maybe good quality projects and animating better these things.
I think, honestly, and this is something I'm working on myself. I don't even think I'm necessarily there yet. But what I said earlier about understanding subtext is like probably my thing I'm working on the most now. I think by the time I was ready for DreamWorks, I technically had the skills, right? Like I understood timing and spacing. I'm not understand, like I'm not like a pro at, but like I'm comfortable with the principles of animation on bringing that into a computer and making it come to life. But when you get into like once you start working on films or stories, right? Like you're trying to like make these characters seem believable.
Yeah.
And like really bring them, like you're not just bringing their movement to life, but like Pixar stories are so emotional. It's great because you feel the empathy on them, or you feel like the romance of these characters, and these animators like really take their time and think about the thought process.
Yes.
And what they're going through, and they're really what the character's feeling. And I think that's something that's really hard to, like I said, I'm still working on that. I feel like on Puss in Boots, I've had some great challenges on where I had to like take a second and step back from the computer and be like, is this what the character should be thinking right now? Not necessarily what they should be doing. And I think that's something that's super important. If like JP had said it, that separates like a good animator from a great animator, when you can like automatically animate what they're feeling versus what they're saying. That makes it less cliche all the time, right? Like, because everyone, like when you're a student, you do all these cliche things, and cliches they work. Like cliche is not necessarily a bad thing, but you don't want everything to seem the same. So I think when you obviously like take your time, you need to understand the principles. You need to practice. Animation's a muscle. You should be animating as much as you can while you're learning, especially like in school. Animate all the time, fail often. Like that's how you learn, is making the mistakes and learning from them. But like when you like, okay, I can animate now, I could go work at a studio, that learning doesn't stop. I'm currently like studying all the time and trying to like push myself into like how to really get into the subtext and like how the character's thinking. And I think right now, for me at least, that's the most important on how to become like the next level where I feel like my supervisors and like the Hokas I'm trying to hopefully get as good as they are, and like I feel like that's something I'm working on to get better. So if I were to tell a student like once they get done or to the animation level where they can get hired, that's the next thing to think about.
So isn't it like more connected to acting thing? Like you need to learn acting. That is what I understand from this. Like,
I mean, yeah, you definitely need to understand some acting, but like I don't think they should like when I shoot my reference, I don't expect to look as good as like the characters are gonna look on screen. Like
no, but knowing the context about what the character is thinking, so we need to do a lot of this thought process, like how he would be thinking. So we need to
yeah.
get into the situation first, like what is happening there in the scene.
Yeah, no, that I mean, not even just what's happening in the scene, but like what's their reason for that character. Um, I interned at one of other games, and one of the interns, or not only one of the animators that sat next to me, his name was Kevin Chesnos, and he worked at Pixar for 11 years. And whenever I could, he would give me like little lessons during my off time. And one of the ways to think about this is like taking a famous character that you know and trying to break down to what's their reason for doing everything they do. And he did Superman. And like he asked me like, okay, like what does Superman do? And I was like, oh, he's a superhero. He saves people from evil. He's like, oh, why does he do that? Like, well, he wants to be good. Like he wants to defeat evil. He's like, okay, but why does he do that? And I was like, well, he has these powers and stuff. He's like, okay. Um, he's like, why doesn't he just do it all the time? And like, why is he like not just being a hero all the time? And I was like, well, he hides it because he's Clark Kent. And I can go on this for a while because it took me a while, but he's like, all right, now why is that? Why is that? Why is that? And it got to the point where like Superman is Clark Kent, and it's only Superman at some points because Superman wants to belong. Superman was taken from his home that was destroyed and put on this planet where he is nothing like anybody else in this thing, but he wants to fit in and wants to belong. That is why he chooses to do good. That is why he chooses to not take all of the glory that he could have by being like everyone knows who the Avengers are, but no one actually knows who Superman is. They know who Superman is, but like when you see Clark Kent, you don't say that's Superman. And he does those specific things because he wants to belong. And now that you know that he wants to just belong in this world that he's not from and wouldn't be accepted normally, that's why why he's making the specific decision he's doing. And now you have a way deeper subtext on why every little decision, right? Like this is why Superman is going to fly this specific way. This is, like you start thinking about that. Okay, why would he do that? And obviously that's super deep, right? Like not every little decision needs to be that deep, but it was just a great lesson that he taught me. Like, oh, okay, like how deep can you go to understand like why this character walks this way? Like that's one of the first tests you do when you get on a new show is like, oh, let's figure out how this character walks. And like you try to meet with the story people like, okay, like what's this character like constantly, like what is their goal in life, like stuff like that. So yeah, definitely really getting into the.
So you guys like brainstorm while sitting together, like what is the story, what is the characteristics of the person, the character that you might be knowing. That is why you might be thinking that deeply about the character, how he would be walking or how he would be acting in a certain way.
Sorry, can you repeat that? It kind of cut out.
You get the characteristics of the character, like about the story, or do you brainstorm together, like how we should do it, or what is the characteristics, how he should walk, or is it all on you? Like you can take help for sure.
No, we help for sure. Yeah, there's a team. First off, stories on a film way before the animators are. So there's a lot of like bones to this that like we get help from, tons of help from like story previs. The directors are of course are there, and they know exactly how they want the characters to be. And then usually like the Hokas are on really early too, so they're starting to figure that out, and they'll bring in animation supervisors. But like there's sometimes like I'll go on a film, like, or I know I'm going onto a film but I don't know anything about it because I've been working on this other film. And so I'll try to look at the storyboards and see like, oh, what's a scene from this? And then I'll like see that and I'll say, oh, okay, maybe let me try and animate something. I'll do like my own personal little test to just see like, what would this character do in this situation? Or like, would it be cool to see this character in like this emotion, right? Like sometimes I'll like, I know at DreamWorks, we do a lot of fun cartoony things that are comedy. So you're going to do that at DreamWorks, like that's guaranteed. But like, what does it look like when Wolf is sad, right? Or I get like doing a test like that with like Puss in Boots. Like, what does it look like when he's going through something like really emotional and not just being like the comedy Zorro he is? You know, like I like to do those fun tests to just like send it like, oh, here, what do you think of this? And sometimes that's a seed planted and like, oh, maybe we'll like move on from there. And it's fun. Or but then like you said, like I'll look at storyboards and they'll have something. I'm like, okay, let me figure out how this funny scene, because this kind of relates. So yeah, there's tons of help.
So that would have been a rough animation, not that detailed, but a rough animation. Is it? Like
Sorry, say it again.
Like whatever you experiment, like this, you do the trial thing. Like I should show this acting to the director how it feels. So that part you might be doing it in a rough animation, right?
Yeah. No, yeah, super rough, especially if it's a real shot. If it's a real shot, I don't like. I want them to see it early to make sure they like it. Because if I make it pretty and work on it for weeks and then they don't like it, I don't have as much time to clean it up. But yeah, and then when we do tests, like at least for me, every time I've done a test, like it doesn't get to 100% polish that it needs. It's usually more about learning. I usually do a test before I get on a new show, and then I'm just trying to learn a little bit more about the character and also just the animation style, because that DreamWorks, every animation style is very different, right? Like going from Boss Baby to Bad Guys, those are two very different animation styles. So it's like you want to practice to try to hit the ground running once you're there.
So like talking about this snappy animation, like this animation is really snappy. So how do you deal with that? Majorly you focus on poses?
Are you talking about like Bad Guys?
No, any kind of an snappy animation if you talk about maybe any movie.
I mean, so like type, you mean like making sure it doesn't look too soft and the spacing feels like tight? Yeah. It's just all about like trying to get the right feeling. For me, what I'll do is, especially if I can depend a lot on my reference, like if my references can get pretty close to what I want, what I do is this: sometimes I'll try to match my reference every 4 frames on when I block. But then what I'll do then is I'll remove my reference, and then I'll like figure out what the timing should feel like. I'll maybe that 4 frames should be like 8 frames, and maybe that should be 1 frame, or that should happen in 1 frame, right? Like, and I'll mess around with that. That's how I like kind of, and I try to get as close to I can of that feel in stepped. And then of course when you hit spline, it looks terrible, right? Like it's like, oh, it looks too soft. So what you need to do is constantly go back to that. I like to go back and look at my steps. I'm like, why doesn't this feel like it did? And I'll look and I'll say, oh, this was favoring this. So I'll go into spline and I'll like really favor it. And that's how I bring it back to that snappiness. Like, don't be afraid to like look back and see what was working on your old stuff. And I've had times where I've splined it and I've had to be like, let me just go back and actually start over, because I know I made these mistakes and it's too muddy now. That's a problem I think everyone has, is like once you hit spline, it always looked a little softer than you think. So it's always a little frustration. But yeah, that's what helps me, is I try to keep a window with my stepped version, and like while I'm doing that, I'm like, that still feels soft, and I'm like, okay, let me really tighten it up, because I'm looking at my step and it should be way closer to that.
So the shot you showed about the breakdown you showed about the shot. So how much time did you get for that animation shot? How much time did you take?
Oh man, that was a long time, or that was a few years ago now. That was, so when I got that, I was still a cycle animator, so they may have given me a little bit more time. But I know DreamWorks is like, we usually animate a little bit faster because we have less people on our films. I know I look at like Hotel Transylvania 4 and they had like 200 animators, something like that. We usually have around 40 animators. So you don't get as much time, but I think that was my first one. So I want to say maybe 4 weeks to do it, which I think for that, it was only one shot. Like that, I feel like that's a lot of time, maybe 3 weeks. And that was because it was my first film at DreamWorks. I was in cycles. I wasn't an animator yet. I think they gave me a little bit extra time to like make sure I could handle myself because it was a dialogue shot, right? I've never animated dialogue before. Like I've animated dialogue in tests, but not for a DreamWorks movie. So they were like, give him a little extra time. But I know on Puss in Boots, I had a run of 12 shots. And I think I had like 5 weeks to do them. So it can get pretty fast at DreamWorks.
I really feel like getting into that kind of Hotel Transylvania, that kind of animation. Like, I want to know how these guys think about those crazy poses.
It's, from what I heard, there's actually a really cool breakdown on YouTube somewhere. I forgot the animator's name, but they a lot of times like they don't limit to what the rig can do. It's a lot of using blend shapes and or shape editor to do it, because they showed like, he showed one where Gindi drew over the thing and the rig couldn't do it, so he had to like legit move the pixels to get that exact shape. So it's Sony on, I know on Hotel Transylvania, they will not let the rig breaking limit them, which is amazing, because I know Gindi, some of those drawings he drew, like that looks like it would be so hard to get, or with the cape, looks like it. I feel like that's got to be a nightmare for the animator, but they make it look amazing. So props to them. But yeah, I think if you look up like Sony animation on Hotel, you might be able to find something on YouTube. I know there's someone that showed how he got those exact shapes, and it was pretty much with the
I need to find a guy to get to talk about this that kind of animation.
Yeah, I'm sure any of them, like from Sony, if you worked on Hotel, because I know Gendi's drawovers,
I need to find out who is the guy who could talk about that Hotel Transylvania. And one more thing, what would you like to suggest if somebody is trying to come into this animation industry? So what would you like to suggest the beginners, the very beginners who are very, very new to this animation industry?
Oh, that's a good question. I'd say, I guess, go ahead.
Yes, continue.
No, I'd say it's hard because I feel like mine was different than everybody else's. A lot of people say start drawing, but I can't draw.
Same, yes.
And so it's going to be different for everyone. What I would do is, if you truly like love what you're doing, like prepare yourself for patience. Animation is like, it's hard. It's very hard. I don't want to sugarcoat it. It's fun and I love it. It's like a puzzle, and I love, like, I feel like I'm constantly learning something every shot I get, and I love it, but it is hard. And so I know there was times that as a student, especially being an older student, like quitting my job to learn animation, like I would get scared and be like, did I make the right decision doing this? Because it's a tough thing. And I felt like a lot of my classmates at Animation Mentor, they went on to great studios too. And I felt like they were better than me. And I felt like, am I going to be able to keep up? But eventually, like it may take you a little longer. Like I know it took me, I wasn't ready right after graduation. I had to take another year. But be patient, take the time. Don't try to, and that's with everything, like even with your tests, like don't try to just spline through it just to knock it out. Take your time. If you're not fast enough to finish it, great that time, you're going to get better every single test you do. I'd say that patience, and also being very open to feedback. Feedback, show your work, even if it's ugly, and be willing to understand that like everyone that's willing to take the time to give you feedback is just trying to push you. They don't want to see you fail. So if they say something that you may not like, it's because they want to see it better. And so just take it with a grain of salt. No one likes to show their work. They're scared. I get scared showing my work even today. But like, it's very important to show your work, show it often, show it early. And that's how you learn the most. And show it to people that are better than you. I had, I don't mind shouting them out because I felt like they are like my friends Mikey Wong and Laura Han. They were way better than me in school, so I was constantly trying to show them my work in class so they can push it, because I was like, okay, they're good, I want to be at their level. And so I'd reach out to them like, hey, can you do some drawovers or like give me some feedback all the time? Like, do that. Like, it's nervous and scary. Like, I would get scared every time because I hope they like it. You want everyone to like it, but no, not everyone's gonna like it right away. So get uncomfortable and show your work.
Lot of learnings in this session as well. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time as well. And I hope we connect soon and talk about the Puss in Boots.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll be able to do that. It's coming out
Yeah.
this holiday, so it's coming. But it's gonna be a little bit. But yeah, no, thanks for inviting me. This was fun. Sorry again, it took months to do it.
Not at all. I'm really grateful that you replied back, you reverted back and talked about this. And we are like really grateful to you talking about this. And this will add a lot of knowledge and value to other people as well, whoever watches this video.
Awesome. No, thank you. I feel privileged to be asked. I feel like it's cool to know that Ben and Prashant were here. So I'm like, oh, they're so good. So I feel like it's nice to be up there with them, even though I know they're way better than me. But no, thank you. I'm excited to see more of your episodes. And yeah, once more films come out, we'll keep in contact and so we can show more work.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much and see you soon. Take care.
See you, Naresh. Have a good one.
Bye-bye. Take care.
You too.